Welcome back to another episode of the Basalong Cycling Show. I'm your host Sherry. Before we jump into the episode, make sure to subscribe if you are watching on YouTube and to rate the show and share it with your friends. If you are listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, it really helps to support the channel. And you might have noticed I have a new camera. I'm using the Insta360 Link 2 camera to record my podcast. It's a super cool AI-powered camera with 4K resolution, and it also helps you to level up your audio with noise cancellation and other features. If you are a busy professional looking to level up your video and audio for video calls, or in this case, a podcast, make sure to check it out in the link in the description. I also have some special discounts for you. Now, let's jump into the episode. We have a very special guest, Meaghan Hackinen. She is an ultra cyclist, first female I crossed the line in races like Tour Dubai and Hellenic mountain race. But what are the secrets behind her success? Let's find out.
Thanks for having me, Sherry. It's nice to see you again after Atlas Mountain in February.
Yes, it's so great to see you. Yeah, we met in Atlas Mountain Race in Morocco. Was a top one. You were flying. I think the last time I saw you was at night.
Oh gosh.
You just like flew past by. I was like, okay.
Well,
that was a tough night.
I didn't feel like I was flying. Every pedal stroke of that one was hard.
Yes, indeed. I think that's the toughest race I've done so far. I was like, there's one thing, road and gravel ultras, and there's like the Nelson races. That's like another level of ultra, I would say.
Fully agree. Yeah, it's like a ultra adventure and you don't quite know what will get thrown at you. Even though you're given the route and you're given the points of interest, you're still like, whoa, where did this come from?
Yeah, but you've done so many tough races. I mean, you recently won what is called, you're doing the Nelson Triple Crown. So
That's right.
Nelson is a race organizer. He organizes like quite extreme bike races in some of the most like spectacular places like Morocco, Kyrgyzstan, Greece, and you are doing the Triple Nelson, so all his races, and recently won the Hellenic mountain race. So how did it go? Tell us a bit more about this adventure.
I had a great race. I think because it was later in the season, so I could prepare for it a bit more than Atlas, and my body felt like it was just ready for the challenge. The Hellenic mountain race is through the Pindus Mountains in Greece, and it's only 900 kilometers, but there's almost 30,000 meters of climbing, which is just a heck of a lot. So there's lots of hike and bike. There's lots of ancient bridges that you have to like go down to and then climb out of on these little windy stairs, and really, really beautiful landscapes in Greece. And I just felt like I found my groove. I was a pretty happy camper most of the time, kind of cruising along. And it wasn't until day 4 that my legs like really started to feel it. And I think, from that to the finish was hard for me. But until then, I just felt like I was on a magic carpet or something, like floating along and having a great time. I felt like I spent a little too much time at the controls because sometimes the weather is rough or it's cold out and you get to the checkpoint and there's food and everybody's happy to see you and you just don't want to leave. But other than that, I raced pretty smart and I just kind of stayed on the bike. There's not a lot of resupply, so there's not a lot of excuses to stop because there's nothing to stop for except beautiful photos. And I think that was, I just stayed moving. There's all these little like churches and shelters in the middle of nowhere that you can bivvy at. So that was easy. And then there's lots of water fountains, again, just in the middle of nowhere. So it's easy to get water. But yeah, resupply was a challenge. And then just the sheer elevation, you're always going up or always going down. So, navigating that steeper terrain was a bit trickier for me and trying to do it safely and make sure that I got to the finish line in one piece.
Yeah, no, you did an amazing job really fast. So congratulations, but you are no stranger to these challenges. I mean, you won, you were the first woman across the line in Tour Dubai. That was really impressive. Have you done long races like Trans Am, Transcontinental? So how does it compare to these other races. What would you say was the most challenging event you've done?
I think maybe Atlas. Yeah, because Atlas was quite rough and I had a bit of a shoulder injury going into it and then I had some lower back pain. So I was just like always in pain and I was
Mm-hmm.
riding a new bike, which sounds amazing. Everybody loves a new bike, but it
Yeah.
wasn't fit to me yet. And so I had added a suspension fork the night before the race and it just like threw the bike geometry off and I just felt like a hot mess. And
Yeah.
there's not a lot of room to make mistakes and be competitive in such a challenging course, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you make a mistake, you're going to pay for it somehow. And I just felt like I was always trying to catch up and figure things out. And it was such a beautiful course and it was incredible to be in Morocco, which is so different from Canada where I live. And I think
Yeah.
that like for me, I feel like the landscape made it possible to keep pushing through, even when I was like, oh, everything's falling apart and it's so hard and rocky. But because it was so beautiful and strange, I was just like, wow, like I have to keep going because I need to find out what's at the end of this road or what's around this corner. And, did you feel the same way? Were you just motivated by how incredible it was around you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, after the first night, I already wanted to scratch when I was walking for 4 hours on that donkey trail in the snow. I was like, oh my God, why did I sign up for this? But as you said, then the morning came and it was so incredible with the Atlas Mountain and it
Yeah.
was like riding in the moon. And as you said, sometimes the toughest moments, like I was in this part of the race called the Colonial Road, dehydrated. And I was like, oh my God, I hate my life. And then it was like, it opens up and you are in the most amazing place and it really motivates you to keep on going. But for me it was also the toughest race I've done so far, I would
Yeah.
say. Sometimes I don't know, it seems it's extreme, but when you are there, there's challenges you did not expect it, like the Atlas Cup. I was like, for sure that's something that only happens in videos and then you are faced with it and you don't know what to do because you never experienced something like that, so you start panicking. So I think that was something really special and strange, I would say. And you realize how lucky you are, like riding in Canada or here in Europe, that we have all this great infrastructure, or just the fact that in Morocco that's the way people live. They have sometimes some problems breathing because of the dry air, the all the dust coming from there, and that's something normal for them. And then we are like, oh my God, I'm dying here. Yeah, but I think it's quite a life experience, this race.
Yeah, for sure. One of the hardest parts of my Atlas race was on the old Colonial Road. I was, set with food and water, but there's those hike-a-bike sections where the road is broken down and you have to like climb up this wall. And because my shoulder was injured, I wasn't feeling very
Ah.
strong. And I got there and I was like, I don't know if I can get my bike up here. And I waited there was a couple of guys behind me. So I waited for them to push their bikes up so I could see how they did it. And I was like, I don't think I can like lift my bike over my head. And I did, but it was really scary. And I guess I could have unloaded it to make it lighter and make it easier, but I
Mhm.
never even thought about that because I don't know. But yeah, man, that was such a hard part for me. And usually I feel pretty strong and capable. And all of a sudden I was like, I just don't think it's possible. I'm going to be stuck here on the old Colonial Road forever.
Yeah, I think so. What are your thoughts about hike bikes on races? I mean, I feel like now is every race has to have a horrible hike bike. I don't know what. It's like, can I please ride my bike, please? Is this supposed to be a bicycle race? But you need to have all skills in the modern ultra races, I feel.
Yeah, you do. I think I'm okay with it if the race director lets you know, or if there's like some indication. It's nice if there's a POI that says like, there's going to be a hike a bike here, prepare for this or whatever. The first couple I did were in BC races close to home, and I just
Hmm.
didn't know, and I wasn't expecting hike a bike because I'm coming from a road cycling background where there's no
Yeah.
hiking. And I did one called Middle Kootenay Pass in a race called the Alberta Rockies in Alberta and BC. And it's a pretty big hike a bike, maybe like an hour and a half up, and
Whew.
then mountain biking down. So I had to walk down again. And I didn't know it would be there. So it was like shocking to get to a place that I couldn't bike anymore. And I was like, is this where the trail goes? Like, really? Up this mountain? Like, how long am I going to be pushing for? So to have no idea, was like, it made me in a bad mood. I was like, this is stupid. And I think if I had talked to more people who'd done the race, they could have all told me that this was going to be here and I'd have to hike my bike. And so I've definitely gotten more used to it, but I do think it's a nice courtesy for race directors to tell you, because then you have the ability to make a choice and be like, no, I don't want to hike. I'm not going to do it. Or you just, sign up for it and have to live in the moment. Yeah, the goat trail on night one was a bit ridiculous in the snow, but man, it was so cool because it was just something you would never do otherwise. It was such a stupid, like, funny thing, but like a bonding experience with everyone else racing.
Yes, especially when you get lost and you realize you have to go back. It
Oh,
was like, oh my God, I have to go up. It was not the way. Yeah.
oh,
And
yeah.
you just mentioned you were doing road cycling first, and there's something really inspiring you said when we finished Atlas Mountain Race. Like, I came from the road and I just started doing off road, like these extreme events, and I just learned as it went on, and that's really inspiring. Sometimes coming from the road myself, I'm in these ultra races, and I feel, like in Atlas, everybody was writing down the descents and I was walking it. So you feel really frustrating. And these words that you said to me, I just went from road to off road, and, I learned while doing it, was very inspiring, gives me hope, like, okay, maybe I can do it one day. I mean, you end up winning Tour Dubai and also Hellenic, so I think that's really cool. How did you make the transition? Was it easy? Which one you like best? Because you did I think Transam, that's road,
That's right.
right?
Yeah. Trans Am and Transcontinental and North Cape 4000 and Paris Brest Paris are like the biggest road ultras I've done. I was not interested in getting off road because I thought it was all like downhill mountain biking and like really aggressive style riding. And that didn't interest me at all. I have knee injuries. I want to like protect my body. I'm not like an adrenaline junkie. I don't need to go really fast. So I didn't have an interest in getting into that style of riding. But during 2020, I was already into road cycling, but I started doing huge road loops because I couldn't travel, and I
Mm-hmm.
loved being on the pavement when there was less cars and traffic, and I was just in like my happy bubble. And then in 2021, the cars started coming back and the tourists started coming back to our area, and I was on the highway with trucks and motorhomes and boats, and just realized that it was a bit silly when there's all this wilderness and all these forest roads that I could be on. I was working
Mm-hmm.
part-time as a care attendant for someone with a spinal cord injury. And one of my roles with him was to help him do adaptive cycling. So we would go
Mm-hmm.
on the back roads and the rail trail, and I would help him ride his bike and get to ride a mountain bike out there with him. And I just couldn't believe how different these environments were than where I was road cycling, at the same time. And he was a really funny guy, always like poked good-natured fun at roadies and our lycra and how we pull our socks up, and just like, just kind of like, why do you do all these silly things? Get out in the bush and have fun. And I think after like a year of working for him, I was like, yeah, maybe I will get another bike. Maybe I will like get out into the woods on my own. And so I got the Salsa Cutthroat because it's a kind of a drop bar mountain bike. There's no suspension. And
Mm-hmm.
I think of it just as an adventure bike. It gets you out
Yeah.
away from the pavement, but it still has a road bike feel, which I like. And I started riding that in 2021. I did TCR in 2022, and that's my last like road ultra.
Mm-hmm.
I love road cycling in Europe, like Switzerland or places where there's these cool windy roads and there's not much traffic. But I just think in North America, we're such a car culture, the roads are bigger. Drivers feel really entitled, like, I get yelled
Yeah.
at and people roll coal, and it just feels like a little bit dangerous. Where I live in Kelowna, we have one of the best Grand Fondos in North America. And
Mm.
last weekend, someone was killed by a driver during this
Oh.
mass cycling event. And yeah, the details have not been released, but 3 people were hit and 1 person was killed. And
Oh my
I
God.
don't think the event organizer was doing anything wrong. I think it speaks to, yeah, the level of respect that drivers have here for people on the road. So it's nice to be able to get on those lesser used roads, and I just feel a lot safer, but also like a little more calm out in nature. You know, there's
Yeah.
um, you can connect more with the environment when there's less noise around you, and there's a lot of beautiful little lakes. There's, you know, there's wildlife. There's I was going to say bears and moose. There's bears and moose and chipmunks and all
Yeah.
sorts of things up there, and lots of great camping. So that's kind of been my journey into off-road cycling. And I always joke that I'm a roadie princess, because when I first got to like yeah, when I got to like a water crossing or something, I would be like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, how am I supposed to get through this? Do I take my shoes
Yeah.
off? What do they expect me to do? Like walk? Like, as if. And like, obviously I've come a long ways. But my first year, that was always my thought when I came to like an obstacle. Like, even if it was like a downed tree, I would be like, you've got to be kidding me. I don't think so. But then like, you just
Yeah.
have to go over it. Like you have no choice, and there's no one to
Yeah.
complain to. So yeah. So I got better at managing those challenges, and I still have a road bike. It's actually set up on my trainer right now, and I don't ride it very much. But you know, after riding Nelson's races this year, it's been an amazing adventure. It's been a challenge, a learning curve, but I'm kind of thinking about doing more road and, like, I don't know, fast gravel next year.
You wanna ride your bike? I felt like in Atlas Mountain Race, it's like, well, I should have brought hiking shoes because I'm hiking half of the day, you know. That was
Oh,
every time I could ride my bike for more than an hour, I was happy. I was like, oh, finally. Yeah, but I think I'm still in the road princess mode. So I'm really happy to hear, like, you can get over that. And talking about your bike, you said when I met you in Atlas, you just got your suspension fork over there. And I saw for Hellenic, you actually changed from drop bar to flat bar. Can you tell us a bit more why the changes and how did you feel the handling? Is because the terrain in Hellenic was more technical, as you said, there were some steep downhills.
exactly. Yeah. So I got a new salsa cutthroat this year. I First I thought I would be okay keeping the rigid fork for Atlas, and then the more I talked to people, and I'm friends with Mel Webb on the media team, the more I kind of realized, you know, this is an event for some suspension. Because it was such a new bike and it required like specific pieces to put the suspension fork on, I didn't get a chance to
Ah.
do that before I left in January. I wasn't able to get the bike until like mid January, and then I left at the end of January. So I got Mel to carry some parts over for me that I had shipped to her, and then I had a bike shop in Marrakesh put the fork on literally the night before the race, and that was fun. They did a really good job, but I wasn't familiar with how to ride it, and I have like a 3-position fork, lockout, not locked out, and pedal, and then I didn't have a remote for it because I didn't
The
know what a
same.
remote was. I didn't know any of
Mhm.
this, so I couldn't get a 3-position remote. They gave me like a 2-position one, so it wasn't kind of in the right positions when I was using it. And then I have a down tube bag, and the wheel was rubbing it when the fork was open, and I didn't know the bag was rubbing the wheel, but it sounded
Ah.
terrible. It just sounded like
Mhm.
really awful, and I just thought the fork was broken, so I locked it out. And then 36 hours in, I was looking at my bike and kind of like trying to figure out, like puzzling over what was wrong, and I realized it was just the bag. And so I moved it
Ah.
down like an inch and it stopped rubbing. And these are all things that someone could figure out in a shakeout ride, but I
Yeah.
didn't do that. I did a bit of a tour with my rigid fork, and I didn't, you know, didn't have my bike set up for the race. So yeah, so I got used to the suspension fork over the course of the race, and really learned, I don't know, learned by fire. And then after talking to people at the finish line of Atlas, you know, a lot of folks have done Nelson's other races, and they were giving me tips about Hellenic, and they were all saying that you want to have flat bars for better control and handling, like you said, Sherry. And I said, okay, well, I guess I'll put flat bars on. So I went to my bike
Yeah.
shop and they made the switch for me. And this time they made the switch like more than a month before the race. So I had lots of time to get used to hand positions. And I got
Mm-hmm.
the little like SQ Lab things for my thumb to give it a bit more of
Ah,
a
that's a
road
cool
feel.
one.
They're
Mm-hmm.
so cool. They're such like a nice little switch up that you can do. And I'm glad I put the flat bars on for handling the trickier terrain. I don't have the best downhill skills. And so when you're kind of under biking on drop bars, it makes it even harder. And I was really, really glad I made the switch. But I've actually gone back to drop bars for Silk
Yeah.
Road because it's such a long race. I think my hands will be more comfortable in the drop bar position. It's not quite as technical. There's some rough sections, but I think I can handle those. And I feel just more at home on drop bars. It's more comfortable for me. I
Yeah.
have I have the flat bars still. So if I want to do an event like Trans Balkan or something that's pretty rough, I can get my shop to swap them out again and have this option.
Yeah, I think I find the same as you said. That's why I went for the drop bar. A lot of people ask me, but yeah, you have less control. But if you are used to road bike, you feel more at home, and also for your hands. I don't know, the position I feel is better for my shoulders, and the twist of the wrist feels more natural in that regard. So if it's not very technical, I mean, I was like, anyway, I cannot descend any of this because I'm afraid. So drop bar or flat bar, I will not descend it. So I was like, I would rather be comfortable than that with something more familiar. But I find a lot of people this discussion like drop bar versus flat bar. So as you said, depends of the event. If it's a bit more technical, maybe flat bar. But if it's like a long, like a sail road, maybe you wanna be in a more comfortable position. And there's a lot of flat long stretches, so also like a drop bar, you can go on the drops and then makes you a bit faster.
It does. I do think the drop bars are faster for me. I think the body position feels more natural for me. And I had some really weird hand pain at the end of Hellenic. And I've had hand numbness before, but it was different. And yeah, it was pretty bad after Hellenic. And I think it was just from having my hands like in this different position. And if I use the flat bars again, I will spend more time, working on my body position, and maybe I need a different sweep or some, different components. But that all takes trial and error to figure out, or a good bike fit, and that just takes time, right? So
Yeah, and how do you prepare, for example, now that you go into Silk Road? I mean, it's in Kyrgyzstan, pretty remote. I think there's a section of like 300 kilometers
yeah.
with no resupplies, and I don't know, 40 kilometers. I don't know. I'm exaggerating maybe, but 40 kilometers hike a bike. I don't know. It might feel as 40 kilometers. So, how do you prepare for that? Do you do like bikepacking, testing your equipment? Do you have a certain training? For example, there's high altitude, so is there anything you do specifically to prepare for this kind of extreme event?
A little bit. It's a 30-kilometer hike a bike, so you're not far off. And I've never hiked 30 kilometers in a day, so that's going to be a challenge. Um, I've been kind of doing my regular training, which is 2 high-intensity workouts a week with usually VO2 and threshold. And then I do zone 2 workouts in between, and I try and get out for, a longer ride or two to make sure all the things are working right on my bike, and then I'm fueling properly and I'm comfortable in the saddle. And I love those adventure rides. The more time I have, the more I do them. And if I have less time, then I do less of them. Um, to kind of help with the other things, I've been trying to hike once a week just to make sure that I'm not going to get like leg cramps or something. And where
Yeah.
I live, there's tons of good hiking. I really enjoy it. So that's been part of my training. I do the Stairmaster at the gym as my warm up. Again for the hiking.
With the bike on your shoulder.
I should. I thought about getting like a barbell and putting it on my shoulders, but then I'm just afraid to fall and like look
Yeah.
like an idiot and hurt myself. So I just do it with, just my body weight. Um, we have a sauna, and so I've been using the sauna after my workouts, and they say that the sauna helps increase your white blood cell count or something like that, and it can
Hmm.
kind of help you like acclimatize or prepare your body to acclimatize to elevation. I'm not fully sure how it works. I'm not the most scientific person, but I've been using the sauna. It does help me relax, and sometimes I work out after dinner. So when I hop in the sauna, I'm like ready for bed, and it really helps me like wind down, which is great.
Yeah.
And I'm going to Kyrgyzstan next Monday, and the race isn't for, I guess I'm going to Vancouver on Monday. I'm flying on Tuesday, and then it's like 2 days of travel. So I'm arriving over 2 weeks before the race starts so that I can do some touring and get used to the elevation slowly and see how my body reacts. So I'm flying into Bishkek, and I think I'm going to go up over Kegedi Pass, which is a huge pass. It's almost 4,000 meters, and it's been included on previous editions of the race. This year, the race starts in Osh. So my plan is to tour from Bishkek, which is the capital, to Osh, which is another large city, and just kind of get used to being in Kyrgyzstan and, you know, finding resupply and being out in the elements. And I think it will be a really good test to make sure my sleep equipment is good enough. And I'm actually thinking about bringing a single person tent for touring, not for racing.
Yeah.
Because if I'm trying to acclimatize to the elevation, you know, I'm not going to be putting in like 16-hour days. I'm going to be hanging out a lot of the time. And I don't want to be hanging out in my bivvy in inclement weather in the mountains. That sounds miserable. So I'll take it a bit slower. And hopefully my stomach will adjust to the food. And if I get a stomach bug, I get it over with. We'll see. So those are some of the things I've been doing to prepare. I still have to, you know, I did a test run last weekend with a friend. We did an overnighter, and I just realized I forgot to pack a bunch of things that are small things, but I forgot to bring my charger for my electronic shifting, and it was no problem. You know, my batteries didn't die, but I need to make sure I have room to pack that, and where am I going to pack that, and all those little things.
You cannot get RAM chargers in Kyrgyzstan.
No.
Yeah.
And my sleep setup is like significantly more substantial for this race. I think that's the biggest difference. And even on Tour Divide, I brought an emergency SOL bivvy. You know, those are so small. I brought a sleeping bag that was rated to 0, and I brought a tiny pad. I have it here. So this is my sleeping pad. It's like this, and then it unrolls. Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's
I might ask you for the link. I'm gonna link it in the description.
Oh no, it's homemade.
No,
yeah, so you have to make your own. But it's so small and so light, but it's not good for temperatures really below 0. And they said for Silk Road we have to prepare to sleep much colder than that. So I got a blow up mat, and I got a better sleeping bag, and I got a proper bivvy with like a hoop in it instead of just the crinkly emergency one. But all of that stuff, it takes up so much room. Oh my God. And so now I've got to find places to put everything, and everyone is carrying this stuff. Everyone's bikes are going to be, you know, kind of the same weight. So I'm not at a disadvantage, but it's a challenge for me to pack up heavier like this anyways, and have room for all the extra food that you need.
I feel your pain. Every time I in Atlas, was one of the heaviest setups I carry, and I was like, oh, every gram was like, oh, it hurts me. Am I carrying a sleeping bag? Oh my God, that slowed me down. But yeah, as you said, like then everybody has to carry all of this, and especially I've seen videos of people waking up in their BB bag and everything is frozen. So I was like, oh my God, it could be or trapped in a snowstorm. So you have to be able to kind of resist if there's any weather adversities, because there's nobody to rescue you. It's like hundreds of kilometers with nothing. So that's why I think that's something very different from road ultras or gravel. You always find a village, there will be a bike shop, so you feel a bit more safe there. But in the regard of I know I can find something like 50k if I can walk to a village, but there is like, okay, what do I do?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a big difference that you touched on. And when I was, doing big road rides here or even TCR, when, in the back of my head, I thought if I have an emergency, I'll just hitchhike. I'll just flag someone down and they'll pick me up. And, yes, it would be, you would not be an official finisher in a race, but it might save your life. So
Yeah.
I never worried about, yeah, I always wanted to be self-supported, but, I didn't worry that much if something really happened. And I have hitchhiked a few times, not in races, but because I've had mechanicals I couldn't deal with, or I got caught in a storm. And it's always like, ooh, someone saved the day. And you can't do that so easily in Kyrgyzstan or in Morocco when you're on the old colonial road and, the car can't get there. So you do
Yeah.
have to really trust in your setup and your equipment, and yeah, I guess there is a little bit more of a risk in some ways, right? Because
Yeah.
something could happen and it's hard to get emergency services out there. But I think the most dangerous things we do are probably the things we don't think about, like driving in traffic, or like walking down the stairs when we're tired and might fall. I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes you hear some of the pros, they just like get injured like walking down the stairs,
Yeah.
and there's like they do such a extreme thing, sometimes descending like 70, 80, 90 kilometers a descent, and then they get injured like going down the stairs. So you never know. And what are the biggest mistakes you've done that you learn from, something that was like, oh, luckily I experienced that and now I can use it for my races, like that you remember 5 mistakes that you're like, ooh, biggest
Yeah.
learnings.
Test ride your bike before the race, exactly how you're going to race it. So yeah, make sure you test ride your bike. Um, get enough sleep. I think my mistakes are mostly caused because I'm sleep deprived. In TCR, I decided to navigate through Munich, and I was supposed to go around it on my route. And I was just like, I'm going to go through it. I've never been to Munich. It's a cool city. And I woke up and I was so tired. And instead of like opening my route and, getting back on it, I pressed route to start, and it took me to the start of my track, which was someplace completely different. And I had to backtrack through Munich in like
Ooh.
morning rush hour, but I didn't know I was backtracking, and I was just going the wrong way. And it was so stupid and so preventable. So I think, making decisions when you're tired and, double checking your navigation that you're going the right way and not just blindly trusting it. I think a lot of my decision making, my bad decisions, come down to being really sleep deprived. And then I would say, double
Three
check where
more.
you sleep, drink more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Double check where you sleep. I leave things sometimes when I go to sleep, and I've lost like the stuff sack from my sleeping bag, or like just like small things that I take out and I forget to put away because it's dark and you're ambling around. During Hellenic, I left my rain jacket on the ground, and it's like a beautiful, awesome rain jacket. And I'm lucky that I have an apparel sponsor and they gave me a new one, but I was so upset. And then I got stuck in
Yeah.
a thunderstorm and I didn't have a rain jacket, and it was terrible. So yeah, just like double check where you sleep. That's like 3 mistakes. I don't make any other mistakes. I'm perfect. No, not at
No more
all.
mistakes. Smooth sailing.
Yeah. Don't waste time checking the tracker. Like sometimes when I'm like halfway through a race and I'm starting to be like, okay, like when's the finish coming? I will like stop to check the tracker, which makes you even slower. It's the stupidest thing, but yeah,
Yeah.
I do it, and I'm like, okay, well, where's everybody else? How fast are they moving? But if you can't do that when you're moving, you shouldn't be doing it. You should just keep moving,
Yeah.
because you're not going to get to the finish any other way.
Yeah.
And then I would say, riding too late into the night when I get really slow and I like turn into a pumpkin and I'm barely
Yeah.
moving, but I'm like so determined to get to someplace, and I should really just stop, sleep, and then just like give up on that dream and start again in the morning, because it's not worth it if you're going like half your speed. It's just really inefficient. So I think, stopping earlier is the smart choice, and it's hard to like say that to your ego, it hurts.
Yeah.
But if you're going at like 8 kilometers an hour, then like just stop and start again, unless it's a hike a bike and you just have to get through it. But
Yeah. I think those are really good tips. Yeah, I find the same. It's like rather better to sleep and then you are energized and you go much faster and you recoup the time. Sometimes, like you go to sleep,
Totally.
some people overtake you and then you see them laying on the road, on the side of the road, or barely moving, and you just, you can get back the places and everything. And the tracker thing is something really good. So, for example, I don't check the tracker because it makes me nervous knowing that there's somebody chasing me, or that I'm supposed to be chasing somebody. I think I do better when I don't know. Because it can add a bit of a layer or stress, and sometimes you forget your strategy
Mm.
because you say, okay, I want to stop in this village, but maybe you see that you gain a position, you're like, oh no, I'm going to continue. So then you don't stick to your strategy and everything
Yeah.
falls apart from there. So I think it's good, like, kind of do your own race, and keep your strategy rather than letting yourself go too enthusiastic because of the tracker or a place you have in mind to sleep. So I think that's some really good tips.
Yeah, I think every race there's like I always think of a big opponent. Like what am I actually racing against? And it's rarely other people. In
Mm-hmm.
Tour Divide it was the weather. It was always, the snowstorms or the rain or the peanut butter mud, and you were trying to like get ahead of the weather systems. And then in Hellenic I felt like it was the terrain and the elevation, and I was just trying to like tick off all of those meters of climbing and get to the finish. And it's to me it's rarely other people that you're actually racing, though. Those are the biggest obstacles. And it's if you got to focus on what you can do and not what you can't control, like you were saying. And it does
Yeah.
make me nervous sometimes. I get excited, but sometimes you don't need any excitement. Like it's hard enough as it is. Just focus on your own race.
Yeah, and what motivates you to do this kind of events? Is the adventure, the landscapes, or why an ultra race instead of just bikepacking?
I think the adventure and the landscapes, and I am a little competitive, so I enjoy the challenge of seeing
Yeah.
how I, compare to other people. And I also enjoy bike packing, and I'm lucky that I can find time for it as well. So, out of all of Nelson's races this year, I've been able to tour a little bit before or after, which has been really a cool way to slow down and see the places I'm visiting, and kind of absorb things a bit more. Um, I think the race directors put together such awesome routes, and there are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of other good routes out there too. But I think I find it really intriguing, when somebody like Nelson makes these routes, and they're going to be hard, and they're going to take you to these interesting places, and they're not places I would discover on my own.
Yeah.
Um, I think I also love like maybe the altered state of being in an ultra, like where you're sleep deprived and you're kind of hungry and you're really hyper focused on this one goal. And that's not how I am in everyday life. It's very different, and I'm in a different mindset. And I think, it's like maybe the same reason people do drugs or party hard is to get to that altered state. And there's so many altered states as humans, but
Yeah.
I really enjoy being in that altered. I don't enjoy every moment of it. I enjoy it
Yeah,
after
yeah.
sometimes, but
You
I
enjoy
think
it after.
I think it's an interesting place to be. And it's amazing to see what your body can do, after you've been on the road for so long and you're still kind of pushing through. That excites me. But it also scares me, right? Like in Atlas, I was in a lot of pain, and I wasn't a happy camper for so much of it. And it was, I just wanted it to be done with, but then the landscape kept motivating me. So you never really know what it's going to be like until you're in the thick of it. And I just, I hope that I'm going to have a good experience.
Oh wow, that sounds really good. Yeah, I find the same. I think we had a similar experience in Atlas. I was like, I'm happy I finished it. I'm happy I did it, and I
Yeah.
discovered such amazing places, but I'm happy also it was done. Yeah, and you doing just Silk Road, or you have any more exciting plans for the rest of the year?
Just Silk Road. I don't have many plans for the fall. I have other I guess other things in my life that I'd like to focus on that I've been neglecting. So I'm also a writer and I have not been writing very much. And
Yeah.
I think I probably will do a Silk Road, recap and maybe a mountain race
Ah,
series recap. And then I'm working on my big writing project, my next manuscript. And I've just been neglecting it all year long because I need to sit down and have big chunks of time day after day to work on it. So I'm hoping to carve out time to do that in the fall and do some adventure rides here in British Columbia. The fall is usually pretty nice until about mid-October, and then it gets a bit colder and can start snowing at elevation. So having
yeah.
some time to do some fun rides, catch up with friends. If there's a local event and I feel like fresh enough, I would consider doing another short race or adventure,
Yeah.
but I don't have any plans to do any other international travel or flights or anything like that. I think my bike's flown enough this year. I can't do any more airports.
Yeah, and I forgot your book, Shifting Gear. No, it's about the Trans Am, your
That's
journey in
right.
Trans
Yeah.
Am. Yeah, so that's really cool. Can you tell us a bit an overview of what it's like for some people if they are interested? I will link it in the description.
For sure. Yeah. So I have two books. The first is Out the Way, The Pacific Coast on Two Wheels. And that's about my very first bike tour down the Pacific coast of North America with my sister. It's all about us learning how to be on the road and be on our bikes. And we were both graduating university. So it's kind of a transitional time. We're trying to figure out who we are as young women. And we're reconnecting after living in different places and on this epic bike adventure. That was my first book, and my second one, Shifting Gears, Coast to Coast on the Trans Am Bike Race, is about my first ultra, and that was the Trans Am from Astoria, Oregon, across the U.S. to Yorktown, Virginia. It's kind of written like a journal style, so
Hmm.
each day moves along, and it's similar to the first book in that it's my first ultra, so I'm learning how to do something instead of bike touring.
Yeah.
I'm learning how to race and making all of those stupid mistakes along the way, and being really challenged and meeting new people. I thought I was going to be very alone on the race. I had this image of myself just riding into the sunset as a solo cyclist, and I ended up riding with a lot of other people a lot of the
Hmm.
time,
Yeah.
more than you'd be allowed to in Nelson's races.
Yeah.
And so I think it makes for a more interesting story because there's a lot of interactions between me and the other folks I'm riding with. And yeah, so I'm pretty proud of both books. The project I'm working on right now is about last year's tour divide,
Ah,
and
cool.
I would love to love to finish it over the course of the winter. I think my publisher would hopefully be interested in it,
Yeah.
and I think there's a great audience for stories about the tour divide. There's a lot of books that have been published about it already, and people are
Yeah.
curious about it. And because there's a no personal media rule,
Yeah.
it's harder to get film footage. A lot of people do self cameras, but
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, the
Ah,
books are available online at Amazon, or if you're in North America, they're easier to get at bookstores. And there's also audiobook versions, so you can listen to them while you ride your bike.
is you doing the voice?
No, it isn't actually. Yeah, no. We decided to go with a professional voice actor because they're professionals. But I think it would be cool to do my own audiobook. It's just not something I feel like I have the patience for or the time to record. And I just couldn't find the time and the energy and I don't think I'm that talented.
No, I'm sure it would have been great also. Oh, that's really cool. So I will link them in the description below for
Sure.
the listeners. And thank you so much for being in the podcast, Megan. I'm looking forward to follow your adventures on for the upcoming book.
Thanks so much, Sherry. It's been awesome being here, and I wish you all the best in your races and training.
Thanks.